Hello again everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out the Aerosoft CRJ and we're in the 700 variant. Lufthansa regional livery. Parked up on stand at Birmingham Airport, made by Macco Simulations. So what we're going to do today is a little tutorial showing you guys how to start it from a cold and dark and input all the data you need to enjoy your first flight in what is quite an amazing aeroplane for Microsoft Flight Simulator. I really enjoy it, so I hope you guys do too. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to hit subscribe down below too. So, into the flight deck, and we've got the EFB on because I've gone to drop the steps for the passenger door and things, but everything else is pretty much off, as you can see. Apart from a few peripheries. So, first things first, onto the overhead. We've got battery master on, and I'm going to take you through some of the simple procedures rather than going through the whole thing. We're going to go through looking at electricals, and you can see 26 to 27 volts the main battery, so good battery there. And we've got some warnings here: passenger door, yaw damper, window heats, static heat, pitot heats, spoiler ons, and there's a second page. But we'll go through those in a second. First things first, make sure your battery's on. It is by default for me, hopefully it is for everybody else too. And you want to make sure that your APU generator is on auto, so that's off. And towards the nose is automatic. Same with gens 1 and 2. If they're off, you'll hear the master warning that we just heard there. Boost pumps, make sure they're on as well. And we want to then go ahead. All of these seem to log on, spawn in as well. Bizarrely at the moment, for some reason, the beacon and everything, when you spawn, they're already on. Don't want those on. I want the nav lights on and the logo lights on. Taxi lights as well, automatically on. Turn those off. We can put dome lights on just for some extra bits, but of course we've got to be careful because we are on battery. So we can go Control P, and that will kick the electrical services into gear. We'll get hooked up to mains power, and then we can tick DC service on. What we want to do is we want to go on to the APU now. So to do that, we've got to press the test fire detection. We've not got any beeps or memos or issues coming up, so I think we can carry on with that. And then we click on this button here, APU power fuel. Click it once. And it's on the status page. We can see there was an APU byte, it's now APU SOV open. We can hit start. And we can see the APU firing up. If you guys want a really in-depth tutorial showing you everything, then I really recommend the Dudes tutorials. Works with Aerosoft. And of course, when you purchase the Aerosoft CRJ, within the installation itself you also end up with a folder with all of the manuals, including a quick reference handbook, which is really good to use. And there we go, APU's on. So APU's available, you can see it there, it's green, available on the top. And let's turn some overhead lights on, shall we? Because it's a little dark at Birmingham, murky weather. Make sure your hydraulics are on auto. They are by default, bizarrely, as are the seatbelt signs and things. But there we go, we've got power to the aeroplane. Let's get rid of the master caution and warning lights. So what we're going to be doing today is planning for a flight from Birmingham, Echo Golf Bravo Bravo, to Hamburg in Germany. So the next phase of this is going to be using the EFB and everything else to set up for that flight. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know what you think in the comments below as well if you've started flying the Aerosoft CRJ, if you really like it, or if you found some bugs, then let me know. So let's start with Simbrief. So as you can see, I've gone ahead and started inputting a route here. We've got Lufthansa 165 departing Birmingham, arriving at Hamburg, alternate of Copenhagen, and I've gone ahead and selected CRJ 700. Inside Aircraft Editor I've added one onto my fleet basically, so when I click down it's right at the very top. I don't have to scroll through hundreds of aeroplane types to find it. I've left everything else on automatic for now, and it's showing that planned departure runway 33 and arriving at Hamburg on planned, at least for the current weather, arriving on runway 33, and we've got a planned route based on ERAC 2102. And of course from Simbrief tutorials and things, you guys will know that's what we get when we look at the route itself. But there are other options. We can customise our route depending on what flight level we want to fly at, so on and so forth. But let's go ahead and just hit generate. There isn't any specific Simbrief integration with this because it is based on how the aeroplane works in real life, of course, so bear that in mind. But it's not too difficult to put these in. It's got Airways support, and it's kind of nice doing it properly. But there we go, here's our routing. UNGAP 1 departure via UNGAP, Papa 155 to Sidfa, then to Redfa on the Papa 137 airway, Tulip, Yankee 12 Spy, and so on. So, how do we feed all of this into the FMS, along with everything else we need to do? Into the aeroplane, and we need to start with checking our IRS switches are aligned. So, down at the bottom here, we want to make sure that they are both set to nav. Now, automatically for me, they currently are, and I haven't specifically set anything for that, but inside options, on the next page, we've got loads of different options here for people to use, and it's all within here basically. You can see that IRS align time instant automatically. I might change that to quick for the future, but you can set this up exactly how you like. High altitude nav aids is one I like to leave on there as well, and I'll probably turn ETA off. Inside the performance tab, we can go ahead and select our fuel and things, but on Simbrief it tells us we're going to need a block fuel of 4,620. Now we can go ahead and enter that in here, or we can go 46. We can click in, we can delete that, we can go 4620, and we can hit enter, and it will change it on the aeroplane itself. We can change our passenger load. You can see the centre of gravity changing there, that flight envelope. Forward cargo, aft cargo, and we can send all of that by clicking set payload in simulator. We can send all of that to the aeroplane. So let's click that. And we can copy perf init data to FMS. We'll do that shortly. And we can also init fuel from aircraft. That there is on the back of the aeroplane, this refuel panel. So we can flick power on, and we can change the fuel here, so we can flick these three switches to on, and we can actually increase. We can actually increase by pressing this switch up how much fuel we want on board. So 4625, and we can leave that on, and it's going to basically rebalance and refuel the aeroplane. It can take a while depending on how much you're loading, so bear that in mind. But once it's done, don't forget to switch it off again. And then you can just quite simply click init fuel from aircraft, and then you can see it updated itself. Click on the throttle, or the yoke rather, in the middle, and it moves it out of the way. But taking a look at this then, start on page 1 of 1, and we want to go across to POS init. We've aligned the IRS, so we're at Birmingham, Echo Golf Bravo Bravo, add that into the airport tab, but the reference there, our longitude latitude, isn't correct. And our gate, thanks to the great scenery, we know we are at gate 4 because of the tiles. So in the FMS we can just type gate 4. And again that gives us a slightly different longitude latitude. However, again, click next page. We've got GNSS position 1. click next page again, and we want IRS position. So press the left button there, copy it into the scratch pad, press next page, takes us back to page 1 of 3, and then we press the button there, in it goes. From here, we want to go to the flight plan page, which is the next button across, and page 1 of 1, origin and destination. Origin, Birmingham, Echo Golf Bravo Bravo, destination Hamburg, Echo Delta Delta Hotel. Alternate was Copenhagen, Echo Kilo Charlie Hotel. And flight number, down at the very bottom here, we want the Lufthansa 165, DLH 165, and the originating runway, we'll feed that in a second. We can see we've got via and a few other bits here. If we go to the next page, this is going to be our route. However, we click previous page again to come back here, because we want to now click on departure arrival, this button here. So in that goes, and from our flight plan we want the UNGAP 1 mic from runway 33. We need to select runway 33 down on the right hand side here of the FMS, and it gives us the specific departures for runway 33, and there's UNGAP 1 mic, so let's select that. If there was another page, we'd click next page, or we'd press the up down arrows to feed up and down the list basically. So let's put our departure route in. Let's go back to the flight plan, and you can see there via to UNGAP. So departing Birmingham, runway 33 via the UNGAP 1 mic departure to UNGAP. Now if we click next page, we can see that that departure and the final point of UNGAP is in there. We now want to put in our route itself. So looking at Simbrief, and I'll try and do a split screen for you guys so you can see. We want the Papa 155 airway from UNGAP to SIVDA, SIVDA, that goes in the right hand side. So the left hand side are your airways, and the right hand side are your final waypoints that you're flying on that specific airway. If you were going to just do a direct to, you'd type in the waypoint and you'd add it in on the right hand side, and it should come up here direct. But we from SIVDA we want the Papa 137 to Redfa, Lima 620. You can see this doesn't take long, to Tulip. Whoops. Just clear that. Yankee 12 to Spy, Sierra Papa Yankee. We want to go to the next page. As you see there, we got to the end, it added a third page, November 8 73 to Grony, Mike 105 Eel, November 125 Revla, Tango 907 to Soren, and the Tango 903 to Ribso. And then it's given us a fourth page, but we don't need that. We want to then click on to the perf init page, which is the next index section. And here we want to put in all of our weight, passenger data, and everything else. So from here we want to go back to the EFB, and we can quite simply hit copy perf init data to FMS, and it's going to take everything we've put in here straight across. So clicked it, and in it goes. So over to the EFB then, we want to select copy perf init data to FMS, click it once, it's going to take all of this data that we've put in at the top here earlier, and it feeds it straight into the FMS. So There you go. The only thing it's not done is cruise altitude. Of course, on this page we want a cruise of 390 apparently, according to Simbrief. So we're going to put that in. And we could put an alternate cruise altitude in if we want to, but I'll leave it blank for the time being. We could put flight level 370 in there. Click on the next page because there's one of three. And here it's asking us for the ISA deviation and winds. Now, on Simbrief, if you scroll down to the bottom here, you've got your actual online flight plan. And you can see your average ISA of -1. So on the FMS, -1, and we'll add that into the ISA deviation. And we've got the average wind component of -12, so that's going to be a headwind of 12. So what we'll do is we'll type H12, and we'll add that into the right hand side. We can scroll further down. We can scroll further down the flight plan and we can see all of the wind information forecast, but I'll let you guys have a little play with that. Basically you need to work out if you've got a headwind or a tailwind, and you can add that into the FMS. So we've also got a third page. Let's click next, and we can add in here an estimated time of departure. Currently at time of recording it's 10:43, so I could type in 11:15 Zulu, and we can add that in, and it gives us a rough ETA for when we're going to arrive at our destination. You can see there it's updated to 12:25 Zulu. So that's that page set up. We can click VNAV setup, and here we want to change the transition altitude to whatever's set in the ATIS information, or depending on the region. In the US it's 18,000, but for example today we'll put in 7,500, and our speed limit of 250 below 10,000 set there too. Beyond that, we want a target speed of 290 or Mach decimal 74 on conversion, and we can add in some additional speeds and altitude limits here if we wanted to as well. Click the next page. We're configuring all of our VNAV now, and you can see that we want a cruise at a target of 300 knots or Mach decimal 74 at flight level 390. That's good. And on the next page, for our planning our descent, we can change again. I think 7,500 in Germany for transition. Going down, you can see our target descent speed, updated the transition in the VNAV, and our speed limit beyond below 10,000 feet is 250 knots, as we know, and an expected vertical profile of 3 degrees. And that's pretty much most of it done. So now we can hit exec, and it's going to feed everything into the flight computer. Really easy. And then we can hit perf. Flex temp, I think the dude said 46 is a good one, but it's not really factored into Microsoft Flight Simulator properly yet in general. And we want to go to perf. We want to make sure advisory VNAV is enabled, and depending on the route that you're flying, the departure might require you to track a VOR, and you can tune that in here. So you can either leave it on auto, or you can put it onto manual and tune it in yourself. You can see there, if I switch it between auto and manual, it is flicking between different figures there. That's because it's going to track some localizers. Again, if we're going to track an NDB, we can add an ADF1 or ADF2 depending on our preference, and we can set a transponder code here. We can click MFD menu and we can select high nav aids, so we get waypoints and things higher up in our routes, and we've got airports as well which we can select, which is always good to have, but they can get quite, it can make the MFD look quite busy. So if you want, you can turn that off, and you can see on the primary flight display, and you can see on the nav display that airports disappear. You turn it on again and they appear again. You can change the window itself, so you can choose between off, which it currently is if you look at the top right. If I change that to on, you can see how it changes to be route specific, gives us some different information, and we can have our advisory VNAV page as well. So again, personal preference. I tend to leave it on or VNAV, to be honest. If you click on the radio page where you can select all of your nav data and things, there's actually a hidden page in here. If you at this point click next page, it takes you to a secret page, and in here you want to make sure that your flight number matches again. So DLH for today, DLH 165. In that goes. So there's a little secret page for you. But beyond that, we're pretty much ready to go. We need to select our V speeds, of course, in here. They're all just set to 90 at the moment. We need to sort that out. And we can do that by setting each one individually. And we can look at V1 129, and we can set that using the dials down here. Or we can just hit set all, and that's going to add all that in for us, which is really good. Now, at the time of recording, the latest METAR here at Birmingham is winds at 330 at 9 knots, all the 9s, few clouds 1200, 7 degrees Celsius, and QNH of 1033, so we need to change our altimeter. We can change that by spinning the dial up here, 1033. We can press and hold it for it to be a little bit quicker. And remember, if we change that there, we need to change our standby instruments. There we go. We've got loads of warnings on, and you can see passenger door is open as well. So let's go to the aircraft tab and close the passenger door. There we go, nice and quick.
We would like to encourage all passengers to watch our cabin crew display the safety features of the aircraft.
So before we go any further, we want to make sure that we've got FMS data being fed there. If we're tracking a VOR, we could enable that if it's VOR 1, ADF 1, or we could leave it on FMS 1. And if we were going to track VOR or ADF 2, we could select that there, and we could track that as you can see it's changing in the screen there. When we get a little bit further into the flight, we want to track a specific VOR or an ILS localizer. We can select that in this nav source switch here. And we can change our range as well, so we can bring our range in for our departure a little bit so we can see the route a little neater. So there we go, that's probably a good one for us. At 10-mile range on there. So bearing in mind, in our performance page we will set up for dry runway conditions and flaps 8 departure. We're all ready to go. So naturally we'll have our pushback startup clearance and things on VATSIM. And what do? Make sure the beacon light's on. Get Pushback Express or whatever program you're working with, Pushback Helper or anything else from Microsoft Flight Simulator. I use Pushback Express. And we enable pushback.
Go ahead, flight tech.
We are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger.
Make sure your
Release
boost pumps are on.
Please.
Part brake off.
Released.
Pushing back. You are clear behind, and you can start your engines at your discretion.
Needs a bit of an early turn because it's got a shorter turning circle. So to start her up then, we've got the APU fired up working, we've clicked auto override, so we've got crossflow on manual, and we want to make sure the fuel pumps are on left and right are on boost, and ignition is on continuous. Make sure your hydraulics are on auto, they already are, and then press right engine start. Air conditioning switched off, and you can see the N2 starting to come up. So there we go, N2 is rising, N1 is starting to come up as well, as you can see. Just as we're getting close to about 24 for N2. round about there, we want to unlock the throttle and click it into idle. You can see now N2's firing up more and the M1's starting to come up as well. Oil pressure's coming up, oil temperature's rising. You can hear the engines firing up and the ignition, the turbine temperatures are firing up as well. There's engine 2 started, and we can leave that in idle.
Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention as we display the safety features and procedures of the aircraft in case of an emergency.
So that's stabilising, and we want left engine start. Start illuminates, and you can see again the N2 starting to rise. Same process again. Engine 2's all in the green as well, you can see there, that's looking good. Hope you guys are enjoying this little tutorial. Same process again, so N2 getting nearer to about 24. Round about now, so unlock and straight up to idle. And you can see starting to fire into life. Don't forget to remove the chocks. In the FB, we can, if we forget to remove the chocks, we can get rid of those. And you can see a lot of our issues have all dropped off now, all of the status page and things. Mac trim. We want to engage that, it's in op. And left window heat, right windshield, and left windshield heat, that's up here. So we can stick them on low. Make sure your probes have got heat. And we can leave cows off for the time being, and wing heating as well. Air conditioning, we want it on recirc. And our engines are nice and stable. So after start checklist. Generators are on auto, that's checked. Electrics are checked. Bleed valves are on auto. Bleed valves are up here, guys. You can see there, bleed valves auto, and bleed source both engines. Bleed air, normal. APU on or off, so we can switch it off now, and we can turn anti-ice as required. We've already done that. So we can turn the APU off. Let's get rid of cross-flow manual, and we get our taxi lights on. So, a little bit of throttle. We want flaps 1, flaps 8 for departure, so that's 2 notches, and a little bit of thrust to get us going. Turn the park brake off. And the next video, guys, we'll look at departure in the CRJ. So keep an eye out for the next video to come in the tutorial series, just showing you guys a little bit of a basic way to get the most out of your brand new Aerosoft CRJ. Hope you've enjoyed the video so far. Please do click like and subscribe down below. And make sure you check out the Macco Simulations Birmingham Airport too, perfect for regional hops in the CRJ. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.